If you're curious to hear a little music from our guest Carla Lucero, who we spoke to in our most recent episode, check out E4TT's annual concert of music by women and non-binary composers, Midnight Serenades, on January 25th. Welcome to For Good Measure, an interview series celebrating diverse composers and other creative artists, sponsored by a grant from the California Arts Council. I'm Nanette McGuinness, Artistic Executive Director of Ensemble for these times. In this week's episode, we're joined by Monica Chu, who we spoke to in June 2022. Thanks so much for taking the time to chat with us. In addition to being a pianist and a composer, you also have a doctorate in computer science and worked at Google. What drew you to that field?
Well, I just want to say thank you, Nanette, for having me on your show, and I'm really excited to be here. And as to your question about what drew me to computer science, it's really not a very considered story. So what happened was, during high school, I wanted to go to music school when I graduated. And because of lack of funding from my parents, I just decided to go to the only undergraduate school that gave me a full ride, which was the University of North Carolina at Greensboro. And fortunately for me, I found a really wonderful piano teacher there. And I was able to simultaneously do a computer science degree. So that's how that happened in undergrad. And it's fun. I mean, it's fun to make things. I like to make anything, really. So making music, making tools, making software. So I think they're both very friendly fields for creatives.
What did you work on at Google?
I worked on security and spam and phishing and malware. So I basically was hired into the security department. And then towards the second half of my time there, I worked exclusively on email. So I was responsible for preventing phishing emails from reaching your inbox as well as spam.
What correlations have you found between music, computer science, and engineering? What influences do you see from one to the other?
This question actually comes up quite a bit, but I don't really see those two fields as inherently related. They both are, from an outsider perspective, like the work of playing music or writing code, and people just sort of think that's what a computer scientist does or a musician does. But actually, there's a ton of project management work and administrative work, as you know well from being the director of a small ensemble. And that work is actually very similar. Just the work to sort of manage everything and getting everything done that you need to really execute an idea. So those are very similar. And the process of, ideas are easy to come by, right? So the process of taking an idea, like maybe you have an idea for a program or for writing a piece, and or a piece of software that you want to write or you think would be useful, all three of those things, the process for taking that idea and figuring out what needs to happen in order for the idea to actually get made, in a lot of ways is really similar. There's, of course, plenty of people who are interested in both technology and music, but it's never, for me, it's never been, these are two parallel fields. I'm drawn to one because of the other.
Changing careers took a good deal of courage. What led you to become a composer? Does your career look different from what you envisioned as you were growing up?
Well, I haven't been composing for really very long, just less than 5 years. I think it's been 4 years. The reason I started composing was actually pretty typical of the hubris that a lot of engineers exhibit, which is that they think they can do anything. Like, how hard could it be, right? And so I had this thought that maybe I could write some music, and nobody really discouraged me. So I just decided to do it, and I did it, and it probably wasn't very good, but it was a lot of fun. And my first composition project was actually a song cycle that I wrote for my friend, who you know, Jamie Lee, and we did it together. And that was part of what made it really fun, is working with a friend. And what I learned about composing over the past couple of years is that it's really important to me to be able to provide music for other players that they enjoy playing and it fulfills a need for them.
Can you talk about the string quartet you wrote that required digital rehearsal and remote performance?
That was a project that I self-produced. Nobody asked me to do that. And I paid a quartet to play it. And it was published on the YouTube channel for Center of New Music. And an amateur quartet went to that concert and really connected with that piece. And they reached out and asked if they could have the score, and they wanted to play it for their own community concert event all over Zoom. And I, of course, was very delighted to have this happen. And I offered to sit in on some rehearsals and give them feedback and whatever they needed. So I did that a couple times, and then I went to the concert, and it was actually super touching, like even more so than the concert that I paid to produce my own piece, because there were these people who were desperate to play music together. And because of COVID, this is what they could manage. And I felt really good about being able to provide a score that they could use to come together and play music, and that other people enjoyed listening to. And that was really special to me.
Thank you for listening to For Good Measure, and a special thank you to our guest, Monica Chu, for joining us today. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to our podcast by clicking on the subscribe button, and support us by sharing it with your friends, posting about it on social media, and leaving us a rating and a review. To learn more about E4TT, our concert season online and in the Bay Area, or to make a tax-deductible donation, please visit us at www.e4tt.org. This podcast is made possible in part by a grant from the California Arts Council and generous donors like you. For Good Measure is produced by Nanette McGuinness and Ensemble for These Times, and designed by Brennan Stokes, with special thanks to audio engineer extraordinaire Stephanie Neumann. Remember to keep supporting equity in the arts, and tune in next week for Good Measure.